Good evening. Good evening. This is Matthew Struck with Why Libertarian. Really quickly, I need to put out a disclaimer here. I'm just getting used to the StreamYard software, so definitely bear with me here if I'm not so smooth on the controls just yet. But so I think the big news right now is everyone's watching Amy Coney Barrett go through the confirmation process. And I just wanted to shoot a quick live here that really kind of focuses on how ridiculously broken the system is based off of the proceedings that are happening during a Supreme Court justice confirmation. My biggest gripe against the Republicans is that they choose when the Constitution works for them, right? In this particular case, they actually have some ground to stand on. The problem is that they're not consistent with it. Right. There definitely shouldn't be some kind of religious test in order to be a Supreme Court justice. And they're definitely trying to outline a more sensible case for how the Constitution views the Supreme Court and the justices and how they're supposed to sit and how they're supposed to conduct themselves when they're hearing cases. On the Democratic side, oh my God, can we understand really quickly that the Supreme Court is not supposed to concern itself with the emotions of a case. The emotions of a case are supposed to be dispassionate. The Supreme Court justices are supposed to be dispassionate. They're supposed to be essentially focused on the constitutionality of the bill or the program or the situation that they're being presented with. The arguments that are being made on the side of the Democrats are completely ridiculous. First of all, let's start with the fact that we continually come back to asking Amy Coney Barrett to essentially prognosticate how she would rule on hypothetical cases or cases that she never sat on, where she was not there for all the testimony, she was not there or had enough time to review every single transcript of every single word of those cases. She has a background of work, and that's what you should focus on, whether or not she's consistent constitutionally with what she's done in her background of work and her portfolio. The next thing we have to focus on is whether or not Supreme Court justices should be concerned with, it sounds kind of cold, but should they be concerned with the fallout of finding something unconstitutional? And I think the answer is no. If you put out a piece of legislation as the legislature and it's unconstitutional, and by the way, legislators are supposed to have a fundamental knowledge of the Constitution when they, put up bills, when they sponsor them, when they vote on them, when they're basically debating them on the floor of the legislature. But if you put up a basically unconstitutional bill, in this case, they seem to be focusing on the Affordable Care Act and a number of other items. When you put up something that's unconstitutional, folks are enrolled in the program, and then say the Supreme Court does come back through and say it's unconstitutional, which I don't see that happening. I think unfortunately, the Affordable Care Act in some way, shape, or form as a Frankenstein program is going to be here for a while until the legislature finally kills it. But that being said, if people are enrolled and they're dependent on it, but then the Supreme Court finds it unconstitutional, the blood isn't on their hands. It's on yours as a legislator. It's on yours for not understanding what constitutes the restrictions of the Constitution and what you're actually supposed to be doing as a legislator. I want to keep this more to like substance, but there's also just the ridiculous character assassination type stuff that they're trying in terms of her religious beliefs, in terms of, just who she is and her aligning herself with Justice Scalia in the past as basically him being her mentor. I think it's funny that they decide to deflect when she brings up the idea that Ruth Bader Ginsburg had Justice Scalia's, was a recommended justice by Justice Scalia. They could not be further away from each other on, the constitutional interpretation scale. And he still had the respect for her to say that she was a good judge and that she, used some, pretty consistent logic and went after her job in a professional way. They want to make it seem like every single appointment to the Supreme Court is a political appointment. Now, that being said, do you think the Republicans are thinking about her, interpretation of the Constitution in order to nominate her? Yes, of course. But every sense I've gotten of her over the last day and a half or 2 days that she's been going through the confirmation is that she understands the limitation where your belief should not conflict with the Constitution. In fact, I believe a number of years ago, she wrote specifically an essay on that topic. When your personal beliefs conflict with the Constitution, your job as a constitutional judge is to ally with the Constitution, even if that means that it parts ways with your philosophical or your religious beliefs. So, to that extent, I think the overall process of confirmations in general have been broken. Every single one of the question periods that's been brought up by, every single one of the time slots that the senators have, it's like they're making a stump speech or a campaign speech. This is a confirmation hearing for Supreme Court justice. You're not supposed to be talking about legislation. And on top of that, Amy Coney Barrett, to her credit, continues to try and bring the conversation back and say, look, senators, I can't comment on legislative matters. I'm not a legislator. I can comment on something as to whether or not it's actually constitutional or not. I can't comment on something from a point of legislation. And continually, they also come back to this narrative where she had said that, she should not be concerned with, basically the emotions or the feels, so to speak, of these cases and what's going on surrounding them. And I agree with her. The Supreme Court is supposed to be the most dispassionate branch of the government. Of the three, it's supposed to be the most dispassionate. The last thing I want to say is, and I'm going to cut this pretty short because I don't want this to be too long. Again, this is first live we're doing here on this channel. If you see it live or if you see it, in recording, please throw it a like, subscribe. We're going to try and do some more of this stuff in the future. But the last thing I want to say in terms of the Supreme Court confirmation and just confirmations in general is these things have become character assassination, theater is what they've become. They've become grandstanding. I can't even begin to say how disappointed I am in the process. And it's not like either party has a monopoly on that either. Just those, the process is supposed to be about the person's background and whether or not they have the credentials to actually, fulfill the parameters of the job. It's not your job to try a criminal case. I mean, look, the last confirmation hearing was a circus of all circuses. And, there were other political motives there that were involved in that one. But again, look back to Clarence Thomas, and when Clarence Thomas was confirmed, if there's not a criminal case that's been brought against this individual and, charges that have been filed or anything like that, that is the last thing that needs to come into the public pantheon when you're confirming a Supreme Court justice. If anything, this entire process screams for a third voice. The reason why it screams for a third voice is you need a third voice to break up the polar opposites it seems are being installed into the Supreme Court. All right. You need someone who is going to nominate justices purely on a constitutional standpoint, right? Not because they're right or left or because their viewpoints on a single issue or another. You need someone who's going to put up Supreme Court justices that are going to say, look, the Constitution is this. This is my reading of the Constitution, and this is how I'm going to execute my job. I actually think that Amy Coney Barrett, despite what the Republicans think, is actually going to do that. That's what I've gotten from her during these confirmation hearings. But that being said, it just screams for a third voice. So much more about what happens in our political system screams for a third voice as well. So you'll hear more about that from me on this channel in the future. I appreciate your time and your attention. Again, whether you're watching this live or you're watching this in recording afterward, please throw it a like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. If you're viewing this on another social media platform, please share or retweet it. And we're going to have more coming at you. Thanks.